engelska på gammaldags engelska från typ 1800-talet och ännu längre tillbaks Shakespeare-engelska. Den heter The Faerie med F-A-E-R-I-E, så den klassiska stavningen från Shakespeares många pjäser. Ja, men kort sagt, det kommer kanske vara några ord som inte förstår, eventuellt gamla ord från 1600-talet. Jag tycker det är lite kul att nörda om så här språk och sånt. Så yes, men jag tänkte om det går att spela upp från Spotify. En låt som heter The Butterfly och artisten heter Faun, F-A-U-N.
Yes. Och så under tiden liksom, eller?
Ja, bara i början, bara typ 30 sekunder bara för att få inställning typ.
Vad hette artisten sa du?
Faun, F-A-U-N. Det är kanske typ den 10:e artisten i listan ungefär.
Yes.
Så det är lite 1800-tal, lite keltisk stämning. Så 1800-tal, sagor, lite sånt. Irländsk, keltisk stil.
Ja.
Yes.
Ska vi köra?
Ja, bara kör den i typ 30 sekunder så känner ni in atmosfären.
Nej.
Är det internet?
Jag måste svänga upp och göra det. En midsommarnattsdröm som någon kanske förhoppningsvis har hört talas om. Jag har läst lite ur den så jag blir väldigt inspirerad. Och har tagit idéer från den. Och det är en massa feer och sagoväsen som är med helt enkelt. Irländska skogar. The Faerie. 'Twas an evening late in June in the forest, midst vines and leaves of a midsummer night's dream, when old William Locke of youthful heart so staunch and surest, tread his boot o'er dewlit grass and stream. He wandered through the woods, as often he would do, in search of that quiet of mind, when suddenly there, high up in the air, among the leaves stood a fairy behind. Green little sprite of the forest so lithe, he could not be sure what he'd sawn, for her frame was thinner than sharp as the scythe, from the space between spaces she was drawn. He rubbed at his eyes and stopped right in his track at the sight of that leafy green sprite, and at once then he knew he could never go back to who he'd been before he'd seen such a sight. O nymph of the forest, art thou real as I thee see, or merely an illusion of the mind? He cried out to that sprite in the night with a fright, and peered over the leaf to look behind. The creature then appeared, now much clearer than before, floating still behind that leaf there in the air. She was slender and gnarly, made of twigs and leaves and spore, with fingers so sharp and face so fair. To any man with least the bit of wit or sense, a cure, a curse, a blessing, or a scare. Her wings were autumn foliage, her hair so even more, and in her murky shining eyes a wicked stare. Why, yes, I am as real as you see me with your eyes. You humans are all alike, she spoke. First you're blind, your fat feet clumsy on the ground, and once you see, instead your mind is broke. Like a wild forest child, laughing spryly with mischief, and yet as ancient as the earth itself. He watched her as she smiled, just like the giggling of a thief, that small little sprite, that elf. She made a nimble way up and down just like a shadow, like the wind through branches and bark. Now seen, now invisible, gone from the meadow, disappearing without so much as a spark. She laughed once more, and it shook him to his core, a nauseating green pixie smile. He knew, like all men know, that humans should not go, nor meddle in the under-earthly's wild. And yet he was captured by the lightness in her shape, the sharpness in her face, and the hair past her neck. The sharpness in her face made him feel sharply sick, twitching with malice and magic and trick. At once he was bound, he declared it in his heart, enclosed in his chest, lest he quickly should flee. And no one in the world, no matter how smart, could ever hope to fashion such a key that would open or end his burning desire. I have seen your beauty and know there's none higher. Thus he spoke, thus he said, lest he should be a liar, and then asked her with the urge of one damned to recline. She runs from his proposal, right from the very start, with boasts of her kingdom in which she decreed. With ease a tool to break any lock of her heart, yet in the end says, she shall see. Fools you all are, and fools you all shall stay, while I will my way and change shape by my play. I spin and am gone, I grin and am undone. The space between spaces is my home with mine own. In mirrors and mists we weave our strange power, under the earth and in the void, with spirits kind and dour. At times here in your world as well I thrive to dwell, to whisper to the trees and put beasts under my spell. Yet my kingdom is another, and so I cannot stay. Your love for me will sate you less than chasing the fleeting day. Chase it now I must, for I am doomed as a nutter. You have bewitched me body and soul, until I once more fill of fairy flutter, I fear I shall never be whole. Under wrinkled roots and fenny loss, from my seething blood to my boiling lymph, over moonlit canopies and the collar of moss, I shall seek you out there and wait for you, nymph. I am cursed, I am bewitched by your sight so strange. From my innards to my weary hair graying, I am done with this dreary world. Soon I'll have died. I beg you return, hear me praying. She took pity, or merriment, from the pleas of his heart, for his life was brief to her longevial kind. And each time she would come to the world above so taught, they would frolic like sweet lovers intertwined. In the rustling of the leaves and the calling of the ground, in dark hollows of the night where he found himself blind, out on the morning dew of misty meadows at dawn, by the fairy queen's throne in cobwebs enshrined, in the whisper of the willows and the ballad of each bird, who brought her berries and flowers to bind, to make a crown for his queen, to fashion prettily and keen, with nimble fingers and leaves of every kind. The matters of men and the world above soon found no care in his mind. Ganska lång. Nor the care of all the words and numbers and such in the world of sanity that he left behind. He went with the swiftness of the wind in its stead. His love consumed him body and soul like a leech. And at last, on that final day, when he fell down at evening dead, she whispered to him a nimble speech. It matters not of your passing on this earth above, with your body lying still on the moor. For one of our kind who you brought all of your love, who lives without smallest weight or score. Only now may you join us, in death you are free. Your spirit flies as your body covers grassy bed. What goes on in the world of men is of no concern for me. To the space between spaces we are fled. Thank you. Woo!